And just like that, we are live on the internet. How's it going, Respect?
It's going well.
Excellent.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
I'm spectacular.
It's too late. You said you're doing well. You're
Well, I
messing up.
was doing well, but yeah, I blew it. I keep blowing it.
It's
I will
gotta
say
be.
though, every once in a while when I'm with friends and family, if they ask me how I'm doing, I will emphatically say I am spectacular. So
And do they ask you why?
no,
So that
don't
I
ever
get that a
ask
lot.
why. I never get that.
Every now and again, I'll say I'm fantastic. They're like, really? Like yeah. Like, well, what's so fantastic? And I'll be like, I don't know, breathing. You know, like what? You know, it's Thursday. Actually, I am always excited on Thursday, not just because I get to talk to you, so that is the highlight of my day, and not just because of game night, which is one of the highlights of my week. It's the fourth favorite thing I do this week, but Thursday is also Picadillo Day. I love wait, is it Picadillo or Longhorn? It's Picadillo Day, right?
No, we have Picadillo last week.
It's Longhorn Day, which is still good. Still okay with that. Okay, I like Picadillo more, but very happy with Longhorn Day also. It used to always be Picadillo Day, but I felt bad for torturing my colleagues here, and so now we alternate between Cabana El Rey, which makes the Picadillo, and Longhorn Steakhouse, which makes above average, very good food.
The Cabana El Rey, is that where we had for the conference? Is that where we ate?
Yes, yeah, it is. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was quite good.
Love it there. So good. Yeah. If you remember, they brought me my own Picadillo.
I do.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, look, Eric's big timing. Everyone's getting, we have a choice of things, and Eric gets the special treatment.
Yeah. That's because I eat that literally every Thursday. So they know me there.
Well, and that brought up a conversation between Sam and I, because one of Sam's bucket list things, which
Oh, I did. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right?
Yeah,
and we talked about how Sam always wanted to be a regular somewhere so that
Right.
they could give her the usual. So when you sat down and they brought you, and Sam's like, see, Eric's living my life.
A lot of people say that, by the way, that I'm living in a life. I get that as often.
You got your own plate of food. You had a usual, and well, I will tell you, she's even mad at me because up at my property in upstate New York, I've been going up there enough now by myself that the restaurant that's at the base of the hill that my property's on had been closed for years, and it had reopened 2 years ago. And I got to know the owner really well, and I love going there, and the food's fantastic. And it just brings back memories from when I was a kid eating there too, even though the food was nowhere near as good back then. But I have a definite usual when I go there, and I've gone there enough now that the owner, Dave, just comes up to me and he gives me my beer. He knows what I want. And he's like, do you want the usual? And that drove Samantha crazy. She's like,
well, so has she done the prerequisite things to make this a reality?
I don't know. She really hasn't. So I'm like, hey, I followed through on things, and now I have a usual in a place that, by the way, it's not close. Well, technically I live there now, but
You do.
Yeah, I do live there. But up to that point, it's not a place that I live, or I'm like, we have local places that you can go to and establish a usual. But
no, see, that's the thing about it's like wanting to be a master pianist, right? You can't just be the pianist. You got to put in the work, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to be the usual guy or girl in her case.
Well, here's the thing. I did not intentionally try to have a usual. It just It organically happened.
Right.
Which I'm going to guess happened with you too. So I'm thinking that this may be a case that if you are actively trying for it, you may not get it. Like, it's just got to happen organically.
I think you could manufacture it, though. In fact, I know how. If you want to be a regular at a restaurant where they know you there, Tim Ferriss has a proven method that I have done kind of one time though, not even to a full extent, and it definitely works. If you go to a restaurant that you want to be known at, and where they know your name and everything, which is important to have. If you have people in town and you want to, look cool because they know you're there, or you want to get that reservation when you can, or whatever it is, like having a spot where you're a big deal is a nice thing, or a few. If you go to a place 3 days in a row, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? And you maybe get the same thing every time. That would be your usual for sure.
Yeah.
But all 3 times you tip really well. Like bizarrely, like 50%, or maybe more, right? Like you really do it. After that, you're good forever. 3 days in a row. That's all it takes. Three meals.
I may have that may be corroborated by my own experience upstate, because there were, when they had first opened and that was the only game in town for me to eat at, I was going to, and I went down there several nights in a row, and I gave huge tips. That's got to be it.
That's it. That's how you do it.
See that? And I am proof of the efficacy of that technique.
So Sam is 3 meals away from living her dream.
I'm going to tell her that.
That's all it takes.
3 meals.
It happened to me. I was, and I did it on accident, but kind of on purpose also. When I was actively doing the online dating thing, I had a system in place, and it involved this restaurant, 50 Ocean, in downtown Delray Beach, which was nice enough that it was a good place to take a girl, but not so nice that it seemed obnoxious. And but the parking was real simple, so the valet knew me, and it was right by the restaurant, so that was easy. But because I was there at the time 3 or 4 nights a week, eventually they all knew my order, they all knew my deal. It got real easy for me there. They put the straw in my water, they moved the chair out. It was real smooth sailing.
Now, did that work against you in the dating sense, though? Because maybe...
No, they just thought I was VIP. It was cool. Yeah, they didn't realize that it was like a girl each time, different girls each time.
Right, that's what I was wondering. Are they like, oh God, how many times does he actually do this?
So it's funny because the waiter one time, the chick I was with that time went to the bathroom. I think it was going to be this Asian guy. He was my waiter every time. And he was like, hey man, you got to tell me, what's the secret?
What?
I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, every couple of days you hear with another beautiful woman. What is the secret? And I was like, oh, I'm funny. And he laughed. I'm like, see, it works. And he's like, that's it, you're funny? I'm like, yeah, I'm funny. And that's it. And he's like, okay.
It's very funny that you say that. I had a similar experience. Not me personally. I witnessed it with my father. My dad was definitely a ladies' man, and he was a big dude, and I wouldn't say overly good looking or in any other, but I asked, because I remember someone coming up to him and being like, "What the hell, dude? How?" And my dad said, "I'd make him laugh." He's like, and that stuck with me, So look at this, life tips from Eric Lupton.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally in a wheelchair, right? I mean, which is not a plus. It's not helping me.
No.
Women aren't into that usually. Some are, but most aren't. I do have great hair right now, so that's helping. That's cool.
You love your hair.
I do. I love my hair. I've hated my. So here's the deal. I've hated my hair my entire life. I have actively despised it for 41 years. I thought it was stupid. I didn't like how it laid. I didn't like any of the haircuts I've ever had. I thought hair was an issue of mine for decades, and it was not even a neutral. It was an active problem, And in fact, I used to look at old pictures and be look, I've always had an issue with my hair. It's a problem, And finally, for the first time in 40 years, it's pretty okay, and I'm happy about it. So
See, I don't know how you do it because I when my hair gets to a certain length, which everyone's like, oh, I like how your hair looks. When it's that point, I'm miserable because I don't want the hair. I can't. So I will take function over form almost every time, including my hair.
somehow it doesn't bother me that much.
It would drive me crazy.
And it's in my face all the time.
Yeah, that would drive me nuts.
Right now it's pretty good.
Like I have this like one hair right here that's driving me crazy. Like
Sorry.
OCD.
Yeah, imagine if you had my head right now.
No, see, that's why I'm saying I could not do that.
Yeah.
That is nightmare fuel for me.
Yeah.
So,
But apparently people of the female gender enjoy the longer hair too. Or some
my
do.
wife actually prefers when my hair is short. She likes she likes when it's like, I don't know.
Now if I could grow a beard, it'd be over.
So I can grow a full beard, but
I know you can. I hate you.
and I basically I could grow a full beard by like Tuesday.
Right.
If I don't like, you know what, I should, just to put my money where my mouth is, I shouldn't shave for the next week, and then just see what it looks like by next Thursday. So I'm gonna do that. I will not, I will trim, but I won't shave. But seriously, I shaved last night because I took a late shower, and then when I went to go set up for the podcast, I'm like, I don't need to. I'm like, yeah, I do. It's just, it's nuts.
I mean, I had a facial hair disaster where someone tried to help me and then shaved off chunks of my, non-beard on accident. It's taken me months to repair that injury.
Yeah, if I wanted to, I could go full ZZ Top, and I could probably do it in less than a year.
That's crazy. All I want is an evenly distributed 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you don't.
I want what you have by tomorrow. I'd pay money for that. I've thought about doing microblading.
I mean,
Rose on the side. That's it. Just right to there. Right to. That's all I got right there. It doesn't go up any further than that.
I mean, it makes the trimming a little easier, I guess.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm looking for things to make you feel better about it.
And I actively want like a not like a giant beard, but like prove that I may be male.
Yeah, I if I don't shave for a week, man, it'll be full Wolfman Jack by next Thursday.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, what can I say?
And your wife doesn't like it.
She doesn't. And the thing is, I prefer it. I definitely prefer having facial hair.
Yeah, it's cool.
And it doesn't bother me feel wise or anything, and I just like to look better. But I mean, I literally do this for my wife. That's how much I love her, because she prefers it. So
I wouldn't. It's a big ask.
And the shorter hair, she likes the shorter hair. When I grew it out, Lori liked it longer, and she's like, "Don't cut it, Daddy." And I cut it, and then I shaved the beard, and Lori was very unhappy with me. And she reminds me that when I shave, I look like a naked baby baboon. And I'm like, thank you. I love when my daughter tells me I look like a naked baby baboon.
How many naked baby baboons has she encountered?
I don't know, but apparently enough to make the comparison that my shaven face reminds her of one. So,
do baby baboons typically have clothes?
I don't know.
It'd be weird if they weren't naked, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen a clothed baboon, and I'm thinking when she thinks naked baby baboon, I think she
means shaved. I'm guessing.
Right.
Yeah. Hairless, if you will.
Yeah. And
I imagine most baby baboons tend to be hair deficient.
I don't know about them. Most animals are actually born fully furred.
Yeah.
Most mammals are born, if they have fur, they're usually born fully furred.
I'm thinking like puppies. They're usually not. You know, puppies come out like little like, little like worms.
Yeah.
I've seen puppies born before, so sadly I'm over this.
Yeah. I'm trying
I don't know about cats. Have you ever seen a cat born before?
No, I've never had the pleasure.
Me either. Dog. I've seen a bunch of dogs born.
Actually, never, you know what's interesting? I don't think I've ever seen anything live birth except for my own children.
Wow. I've just seen dogs.
Yeah, no. I can honestly say the only thing I've seen live birth is my own children.
I've never seen a child live birth either, like a human.
It's an event. I wasn't prepared for. Well, Abby. So I wasn't prepared when Abby was born. Look at that. So that's what my daughter thinks I look like.
Well, these are not hairless.
No, but the one all the way in the upper right is really missing a lot of fur. Not incredibly hairy.
No. I don't think this is what you look like.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. First of all, I think the face is too narrow.
Yeah, this isn't you at all.
Yeah. I don't have big ears.
No.
I mean, I can wiggle them, but
that's adorable.
My wiggling ears or the baby riding on mommy's back?
Baby riding on mommy's back, but the wiggling ears too.
Yeah, none of my kids got the gene. It's very depressing.
Is it a gene?
Yeah. Yep.
So I can't wiggle my ears, but hold on, let me do this first though.
Now that's nightmare fuel right there.
Yeah. This is Reggie, apparently.
He kind of looks like Dobby, the house elf.
Like an old man. Yeah. Dobby's a good elf.
Harry Potter must not go back to the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft. Oh my God, what is that thing?
What the hell? Hairless female baboons found alone in the bush are being rejected by our troops. Jesus.
I like the hiding behind the rock. Is she peering at her peers like?
God, what a nightmare!
That is yeah.
No wonder they rejected her. I would too. That's so sad, but anywho, so yeah.
Well, thank you for disagreeing with Lori.
So I cannot wiggle my ears, but maybe you know some science about this. I can do this. I can make my nose go up and down, which other people can do. You think you can, but you're flaring your nostrils. That's not the same thing.
No, I know. I'm just flaring my nostrils.
Yeah. So I have an extra nose muscle or something that I can access.
We are loaded with.
It might be. It's maybe my lip too. It's hard to. Feels like my nose though. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely. I mean, you've got the. It's not just the nose. You have it right here too.
Yeah. So I've only met a few people that can do that. It's a rare thing.
Have you been able to do it your whole life?
Yeah. So the nose wiggle gene, or the ear wiggle gene.
Well, there is a group of genes that we know that do control that. So, and it's muscles, so it's actually having control over the muscles that are there. If you can't wiggle your ears, you probably don't even have the muscles that enable you to do that. So,
I know it's weird. I'm sure it's left over from some evolutionary thing,
Yeah, I'm wondering, because when you do it, the philtrum, which are the two kind of where you get this crease from, there are muscles there. And I'm wondering if you're just able to, because it seems like that's where you're making the contractions.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it does make my lip more. Yeah.
Now I'm trying to isolate the philtrum. You know.
Right.
But no, all it does is make my nostrils flare.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. Every time I show people that's what they do. They flare the nostrils. I'm like, nope, that's different.
Well, it's like the other thing I can do is I can just bend the tips of my fingers, which most people can't do that. So
We can kind of do that.
um,
I can also do like a lot of tongue things. Like I can flip it upside down and stuff. And
oh, I can't do. I literally I've none of that. None. Can't do any of it. Nope. Nothing. I've got like a little stubby tongue that can't do anything.
Which is weird. Again, I think it's more of a. I don't think it has to do with size. I think it's like a muscle thing. You know.
Yeah. Well, Samantha can do all that. Plus, her tongue is like prehensile. She can like stick it. She can like lick the top of her nose.
Prehensile. What does that mean? I mean, is it disconnected?
No. So prehensile is in reference to anything that is able to like extend and grasp. So like an elephant's trunk is prehensile.
Okay.
A monkey's tail is prehensile.
Gotcha.
So tongues technically are prehensile, but they're not that, they're not extensively so.
Not good at it.
But Samantha's, my God, like she can literally lick the top of her nose, like not just the tip. And she's gonna kill me for saying this. I mean, if she wanted to pick her nose with her tongue, she could.
That's wild.
No, she can. She can stick her tongue into her nostrils.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Not even close. Yeah, when it working.
Yeah, like that's it. That's all I got.
So, it's nothing. Yeah.
I can. And believe me, I've tried it all because when you're a science teacher teaching genetics, there's a bunch of the tongue tricks that we know they're controlled by a single dominant or recessive gene.
Right.
So I can use that as an example for figuring out inheritance. And I can't do any of them. So it was always a problem because I'd have to have a kid who could do it come up and demonstrate them because I couldn't do any of them. So except for the wiggling the ears, which very rarely did I have any students who could wiggle their ears.
My friend Casey Buckley could wiggle his ears. I thought it was cool.
It's rare. So I mean, I don't know the incidence of it, but my own anecdotal experience is that it's pretty damn rare because most of my students, when I use that as an example, none of them can do it. So, but every once in a while, I'd have someone who could. So,
well, I've only met a few nose wigglers, so.
Yeah, other than, I mean, a lot of people just can't control the flaring of the nostrils either. So you can,
really?
Yeah. It freaks my wife out when I do it. She's like, "How do you do that?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
I thought everybody could do that.
No.
Mike, can you do that?
What's that?
Nostril flare?
Probably. Is this it?
Nope.
What do you mean?
This?
Yeah, I'm doing that. I'm just moving my whole face also.
Yeah, but that's cheating. I can move my whole face.
Yeah. I do that.
Look at.
You can't isolate it.
If anyone's watching this with the sound off, they're like, probably, what the hell are they doing?
What is happening today? Did I watch 30 minutes of this? Like,
What is this supposed to be about?
why do they even push this online?
I don't know. Come on, this is must see stuff.
Doesn't he run a company? Like, Jesus Christ.
Right. I mean, what the hell are you doing?
Who's going to buy a franchise from him?
I would,
I know you would.
but I'm kind of blocked here, so I live on an island.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Oh well. Maybe I'll actually move upstate.
We had a hurricane.
Yes, and which you guys seem to get a lot of lately.
Yeah. And hopefully it doesn't, like the Great Rage Against the Machine song, it doesn't come back around again.
You know what? I was looking at the projected track, and my daughter asked me, she's like, "Dad, it looks like could it reform?" I'm like, "Yep, they can."
Yeah.
And it's happened in the past, but Yeah, that little bugger is going to end up right out by Bermuda, and then who knows? Well,
Yeah.
What would really suck is if it decided to, go out in Bermuda and then like, hey, I think I'm going to, mosey on north. And
You?
yeah,
Yeah, that seems less likely.
but I mean, we don't. It seems like we get hit by hurricanes like every 10 years or so, except for we had Irene and then Sandy back to back, and ironically, it was my lack of preparation for Irene and what happened as a result the next year with Sandy that led to everything. So screw hurricanes.
Right? They're the worst.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly enough, if you ask, this I find interesting. If you ask people what they fear more, hurricanes or tornadoes, I think like the vast majority of people will be like, oh, tornadoes freak me out a lot more. Which, when you, I don't know, I'm thinking about it from a scientific perspective. That shouldn't even be like, they shouldn't even be in the same category.
Why?
Because first of all, a hurricane, the amount of power from a hurricane and sustained power blows away a tornado. I mean, it's not even, you can't even, it's not even in the same league. They're not even comparable.
But if a hurricane hits my house and a tornado hits my house, the odds of my survival are way better with a hurricane.
For one reason, and one reason only.
It's just
preparation. It's preparation.
Well, and the disbursement of the force. I mean, tornadoes are way stronger at where they're hitting.
Not necessarily. So
not necessarily, but often.
Anything F3 and above, yes, you're gonna have more than what you would get from a hurricane. But if you told me to be, what would you be more fearful of? An F5 tornado or a Category 5 hurricane? To me, there's no comparison. A Category 5 hurricane, that's nope. I'm out.
Well, Category 5 hurricane is catastrophic. I mean,
yeah, it's immeasurable. Whereas an F5 tornado, which is the nickname is the finger of God. I don't know. To me, that they're not even, And thing is, like on Long Island, my daughters are like freaked out by tornadoes. I'm like, we get like F0 and F1 tornadoes here. Like literally, hurricanes are 10 times more powerful than that. And people freak out about it. But I think it's the unpredictability of them.
That's it. Yeah.
Although I saw a map last night that shows tornado locations worldwide, and like 95% of them are all here in the United States. So
that's weird.
Yeah, well, it's not weird when you know how it works. We just have the perfect conditions. So the warm Gulf of Mexico, the cold air from the Rockies, and the combining with the Great Plains being super flat equals the perfect conditions to get updrafts of volatile air and tornadoes. So
I feel like we're like the only place that gets hurricanes too.
We're not. Thing is, a hurricane is called different things in different places. So it's a typhoon right. If it's in the Pacific usually, or the Pacific Islands.
But I feel like we get them way more.
Well, we do. Well, first of all, the Atlantic Ocean, the currents in the Atlantic Ocean, and the what do you call it? The jet stream coming over the Atlantic plays differently than it does when you have in the Pacific. So the Pacific isn't as conducive to forming hurricanes as the Atlantic is, because most hurricanes form off the Cape of Good Hope and the Horn of Africa, and then they move across the Atlantic. Although your little storm here, and that's what I wish the news would report more of is like you now have hurricanes that are their genesis is in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's unheard of. And the only way that happens is when because hurricanes are heat engines. That's really all they are. So all heat is, excess thermal energy has to go somewhere, and the planet has to have a way to relieve it. And that excess thermal energy, which is usually in giant heat sinks, which we call the ocean, it makes sense that the ocean, being such a large body, has a tremendous amount of heat. And people mess this up. They always confuse heat and temperature. The way I explain the difference is temperature is like the average amount of motion in the particles of something, right? So if you're measuring the temperature, you're telling me how much on average those particles are moving, and that's what I call temperature. Heat refers to the total amount of motion of all the particles. So therefore, the more particles you have, the more heat you'll have by default, even if they're not moving very fast, because there's two conditions as opposed to just one, right? So I used to joke in my school, I used to ask kids, who's the hottest teacher in this school? And, the boys would mention certain, and I'd be like, no, you're all wrong. It's me. I'm by far the hottest teacher in this school. And then I would use that as my segue into explaining to them how I'm going to tell them what heat really is. So the Atlantic Ocean is a huge body of water with a tremendous amount of heat, just based on the fact that it's got a lot of water, right? So there's a lot of particles, a lot of moving parts. And over the summertime, so from the spring to the summer, that body of water is absorbing a tremendous amount of thermal energy that causes its heat to go up. And that thermal energy needs to go somewhere. Energy always travels from, a point where there is energy to a point where there isn't. Okay. And so a hurricane is a direct manifestation of that, but you need a tremendous amount of heat to do it. So the Gulf of Mexico should not have enough heat to do that.
Right.
Because it's not a large body of water, but now it does, because it's basically a sauna.
Warming. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Gulf of Mexico is basically a giant sauna now. So, I mean, my mom was telling they were down at the water temperature down in Sarasota was like in the 90s. Like that's crazy. So yeah, so yes, climate change is real, and the planet is getting too hot. And
random hurricanes spawning up out of the Gulf of Mexico is the
and that like, I don't know. I wish the news would cover that more. Like, yeah, that's not normal, and this shouldn't be happening, and yet it is. And this a couple years in a row now it's happened too. That you've had these hurricanes spawning in the Gulf of Mexico, and that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't have enough heat to do that, but it does, because the planet's just so freaking hot and getting hotter. So yeah, we're all doomed. So have a nice day, and thank you for watching our podcast.
All right, that's it. Tune in next week. We'll talk about
if we're still here.
Yeah.
So no, yeah, I mean, and that's why you guys are getting more hurricanes, which, this is all predictable, and but it's the problem is that it's so easy to change the kind of change the topic or change the focus when you're talking about climate change, because people conflate climate with weather, and climate and weather are not the same thing. So, was it Jim Inhofe in the Senate about 5 or 6 years ago?
The snowball
brought the snowball into Congress in April, saying, if the climate change is real, then how can? And for a scientist sitting there, like, wow, that is like, you literally just showed how ignorant you are. But again, the problem with ignorance is you don't know you're ignorant until you're told otherwise. So, easiest argument you'll ever make is one coming from ignorance.
So people ask us all the time, Lifesaver, makers of mesh pool safety fencing, should we leave our pool fence up? What do you think? Based on your, limited knowledge of pool fencing, should someone leave their pool fence up during a hurricane?
Well, I guess the more pertinent question is, are they asking it in terms of the safety of their investment? Are they asking for it in terms of, what is their? I would think, based on what I know about the durability of your product, is that probably, it could withstand it, but you have all these other factors that could damage the fence that I think I wouldn't want it out there to have that potentially happen with debris being flown around and stuff like that and limbs falling. So what is honestly, what is the company line on that?
So Lifesavers official policy on should you remove your hurricane, or should you remove your pool fence, your Lifesaver pool fence for a hurricane is maybe. That's the official stance, and like you said, it depends. So the warranty says that there's a chance, depending upon the size of the hurricane, the strength of the hurricane, what kind of trees fall on it, your pool fence, just like anything else, just like your roof or your house, may not survive a hurricane, right?
Right.
But in a hurricane, there's a good chance your perimeter fence might fall down.
Right.
Your windows might break. Right. Your sliding glass door may become insecure. And so our thought is like, yeah, you might damage the pool fence, but having your pool protected at least somewhat, while everything else is open, may, prevent a drowning. And so, if you're only cared about your pool fence, take it in. That's the best way to do it. But if you're looking at the bigger picture, maybe it's best to absorb some pool fence damage and mitigate the risk of a drowning, because you're,
can I play devil's advocate then?
Yeah, go ahead.
So if that's the goal, right,
Yeah.
and you're more worried about the big picture, that, well, I still want to have that protection.
Yeah.
Damage to the fence could also mean that its efficacy now is negated in the first place.
It's true. Yeah. So, if you put it back up, right. But I do think, the odds of people getting to that first is low. Maybe they do, and you've got that, that intermittent period, and as accidents tend to happen when things out of the norm are going on.
Yes.
When there's chaos and routine is broken. And I think, after a hurricane, it's kind of an ideal scenario for that.
Well, I mean, here's something that now I'm just thinking myself. Had we had a fence around the pond, which I would have had I known what I know now, right? Would I have been in the process of taking that fence down as I was removing furniture, leading to the same outcome that I would have had with Reese anyhow, right? So it's definitely food for thought. Like, would that be something that I think in my head, just trying to put myself back into the shoes of the person I was without any of the other knowledge that I have, would me then have taken the fence down as part of my preparation for the storm, worrying about things that could potentially blow away or be damaged? And I think I would go with, I probably would have taken it down.
Probably, yeah.
And therefore I would have been in the same position. Like, that's weird to think of it that way, but and that's not a knock on the fence, and that's not I think that's, and I think when you say maybe, I think that's probably the best answer, because hey, it's kind of up to you as the owner. Like, sometimes you got to make a decision,
right?
And you got to weigh the pros and cons of things, and kind of, yeah, it's risk assessment, right? So, which is your bigger risk? And
I will say, I've seen lots of photos over the years of people's backyards flattened, where their perimeter fences are down and screen enclosures are destroyed, and their Lifesaver pool fence is still hanging out.
There you go.
Mostly in good shape, and which I'm always surprised by, because, yeah, it's strong, but it's not supposed to hold up a hurricane, right? It's not the intended purpose, But every now and again, things get lucky and it works out. I think the permeability of the mesh makes it a little easier to stay up. During a hurricane. Yeah, that helps. So as long as nothing falls on it, usually it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, so just here would be your science lesson as to why that permeability makes a difference. If you have a fence, and it's a solid fence, right, and the air really can't get through it, you create effectively an airfoil, right? So like a wing is an airfoil, right? It allows air to move around it. It's a barrier, okay? So anytime you have a barrier to moving air, you now create a pressure differential. And if the air is moving on one side of the fence and it's not on the other, that pressure differential, which this sounds counterintuitive, but on the side where the air is moving is actually the side that's going to be pushed against. So, which is so counterintuitive, but think of it this way. When you're in a shower with a shower curtain and the shower water is moving, where does the curtain go? It doesn't blow outwards, it comes in on you. And that's because the air moving inside your shower creates low pressure. And everywhere where it's not moving relative to there is actually higher pressure that pushes the curtain in. It's also why when you open the windows of a car, things fly out of your car. Because the air moving outside your car is moving at a high speed relative to the air inside your car, which means the air in your car now has high pressure, which forces the air in your car out, which is why a fence will get blown down depending on where the wind is coming from. So typically, if you look at wind damage on houses and stuff during storms, it's in the opposite direction that the wind was blowing, because that's how pressure differentials work, and that's how that works. So your fence being mesh, allowing for air to move through, yes, there's going to be resistance, but that air moving through is enough to mitigate that pressure differential, which is why. And then I think the construction of the fence itself, which is designed to keep toddlers out, is actually kind of perfect too for withstanding, the effect of a hurricane. So it actually doesn't surprise me at all that you have pictures of, barrier fences falling down, but your fence is being up. So.
Right. And, we say it's because it's so strong and durable, but it's probably just science.
It is, but I mean, the durability, I think it's all of those factors play that role. So, and I don't think anyone's going to sit there like I just sat and thought about it now, but I don't think that calculus becomes a part of it unless someone points that out to them. And,
Right.
Like I said, if this were me 10 years ago and I had the fence around the pool, around the pond, yeah, I think I would have picked it up and put it away with all the other stuff.
Yeah, because it's removable, right? And you're told to bring in anything non-permanent, right? So that follows the logic. But
it's definitely something to consider. And I think there's a lot of, when it comes to drowning prevention, there's a lot of things we just don't consider. Like Jessica Barnes had posted on her Facebook. She lives in Florida. She was sending things out for hurricane prep. And one of the things she had mentioned was filling your bathtub with water so that if you lose power and you lose water pressure, you can take the water from your bathtub to help flush your toilets. But, and this is everyone else in the world would be like, yeah, fill your bathtub with water. Great solution. The end. Well, she pointed out, yes, that's a great idea. But now you have a tub of water that is a drowning hazard. And that's something to consider. And I think 99.99999 repeating people are not going to have that as part of their calculus in storm prep. And like you said, it's in those moments that typically things happen. And so, it sounds great. Let's fill my bathtub with water to prepare for the storm. Absolutely. But also be aware of the danger that tub of water now represents.
Right. Now you got to lock your bathroom.
Right.
Yep.
And you as you should, because, it takes, whatever it takes just to get that breath of water is all it takes to be fatal in terms of drowning. So, so that's definitely, these are things that people don't consider, I think, when they're talking about storm prep, and definitely something you want to consider. And obviously just prep. I mean, fate favors those who are prepared. Right. So, and I think, I think now people in Florida take it much more seriously than, I don't know. I think the eye opener was Andrew.
Well, I mean, after Andrew, everything changed.
Yeah. But I remember my grandmother being kind of dismissive of hurricanes when I was younger, and my mom's take on it now is so much different. Although they got absolutely, they're still recovering from last year. My mom
from Ivan or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Was that not Ivan? What was that like?
Ian.
That's right. Ian.
The eye hurricanes, right? But yeah,
We had an Ivan too a long time ago.
my mom, I mean, she was telling, I joked with her last night. I said, because she checked in and said, no, everything's fine. We really didn't get anything. And I joked, I said, no holding onto your door this year, huh? And literally last year during that hurricane, she had to hold onto her door because it was literally like blowing open, and she had to sit there and hold the door closed during the hurricane.
Wow.
And my mom's 77 years old. So, and her husband's 82 now, and he's a great guy. But he was not in the position to really be doing that kind of stuff during the storm. But her take on hurricanes now is totally different. And like as soon as this was even an inkling that this storm could hit, they had everything ready. So I think all those safe, having the radio, and you don't realize it until after everything hits. And I mean, I was there like a month after the hurricane hit, and it blew my mind how bad things were damaged, and that, I mean, because I went to my mom's first, and then I was over to you guys, and that was unbelievable, the amount of damage. And so,
did you say you had a funny school hurricane story?
So one of the things that we had to do in New York State, part of our curriculum was in 8th grade science, was teaching kids about disaster prep for like natural phenomena that relate to what we're talking about. So since weather was something that we did, we had to do disaster prep for hurricanes. And I would go through a list of things that that the students need to do to prepare for a hurricane, which is making sure they have enough, having bottled water, because you don't know if the water run out, putting the water in the bathtub, having an emergency radio, lights, backup generator if you have it. And if you have that generator, make sure it's outside, that amazes me how many people you have to tell that you cannot run a generator inside your house.
It's so sad.
Because I mean, you can, but you'll also die of carbon monoxide poisoning. So there's that. Right. And even having it close to the house, the fumes can come back in. So it has to be a good 5 feet from your house. Like if you have like people do, they have a covered porch that's right next to their house, they think you can't. It's got to be further than that, and it needs to be more than that. So we would do all these lists, and I would tell my students too, since we live on an island, that getting off the island is preparation. Like if you really want to protect yourself, get the hell off the island, right? So we had a state test one year where they asked a question about things you could do to protect yourself from a hurricane. And one of my students wrote, "Go north." And I said that's absolutely. Going north is getting off the island, which is what I taught them. My director fought me on it. She was like, "No, that's not it." She's like, "Come on, how many answers we can accept?" I'm like, the kid is actually, yes, go north. So my director and I, and all the other science teachers still to this day remember this, because I went nose to nose with her, and I would not back down. And the thing is, and I think you've gotten to know me a little bit to know that, like, if I believe something to be true, like, you're not, like, if I think I've got the evidence for it, I'm not going to back down until I've proven it true. So I literally was not backing down for her. I'm like, I'm not accepting this. I'm like, I told her she was being obtuse. Like, these are kids, and we should give them the benefit of the doubt when they have an idea that is legit. And she's like, it's not legit. So I went right to the FEMA website, and I looked for recommendations for avoiding a hurricane. And like number 3, head north, was on there. And I'm like, there you go. And she still didn't want to change it. She still didn't want to give him the credit. She's like, it's too ambiguous. I'm like, it's on FEMA's website. I'm like, what more do you need? And needless to say, eventually the kid did get the credit. But I had to fight. It was not commensurate. The effort put in was not commensurate to the output I got for it. But yeah. But yeah, go north.
Did it affect his grade or anything?
Yeah, he would have actually. The difference would have been between him having. It was a letter grade difference for that one question. So yeah, it made a difference for the kid. And it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care what their grades are, but I know the kids do.
Right. Yeah.
So, but that to me is like indicative of what's going on in education as a whole. Like people losing sight of, what the point really is. Like this kid was thinking, and it wasn't like he just spitballed and said go north, because honestly, the further north you go, the less the intensity hurricanes have. We know that. So
right.
Wherever you are, going north would be better than staying put. The end. So, but
yeah, I've been noticing. My school experience is exclusive to me being in school, right?
Right.
And I've been seeing other people, because the school year just started, right? I've been seeing other parents going through the school process, and I'm like, oh, it is nothing like when the interaction between parents and teachers now. It is like my parents didn't even know my teachers.
No,
like they didn't know who they were. They knew, maybe my mom knew their names because I didn't say them, right? But outside of that, like they didn't talk to them. There was maybe every now and again they'd send home a note. Eric was sick, or whatever.
Right, and I think along with that is that your parents probably entrusted the teachers fully. Like, well, we trust you. It's your profession. Do it.
But now apparently, the teachers have to call and introduce themselves to every parent.
Yep.
They email with them all the time. There's this constant, which seems on one hand seems good, like that seems like a good thing, but the level of parent teacher interaction is I mean, it's hard to even articulate how different it is.
Yeah, and I mean there are several problems when it comes to you said something important. Is that your experience in school is that you were in school.
Right.
And the thing is, everyone was in school, so they think that experience then translates to understanding what it is to be a teacher because they've been on the other side of it, and you don't, right? Or the changes in the profession itself. And I think I shared the story with you about I was the first teacher in my district to offer an online gradebook. I was always ahead of the curve. I had a website way before that's one of the reasons I got my job. The director of science when I was student teaching was shocked that I had a website that had all the review and all the homework on it. He's like, "This is the future." I'm like, "You damn right it is." Yeah. And I was right. And, I was ahead of the curve. And then when I got the job, 3 years later, I'm like, why am I constantly calling parents? I'm like, I'm going to put my grades online and give them access. And so I did. I wrote some code and stuff and did it myself. And the parents had an online access to their kids' grades individually with their own password interaction. And, and you would think that things like that were there to make my life easier. Like if I went back and spoke to myself then, oh, this is to make my life easier. And what I didn't realize is that I kind of opened Pandora's box. And you gave a little bit, and then the parents that wanted more were going to want even more. And then there's also the whole bunch of parents who still aren't involved at all, but want to point a finger of blame. And I had that with one of the parents called to complain to the school that I wasn't giving her updates on her kid's progress. And I'm like, I've given you everything. You've literally gotten everything from me. And you signed up, and and I pulled out, and I'm like, I have the form. You signed it. You acknowledge that we have this online gradebook that you can access your child's grades at any time. And she goes, well, yeah, but that computer's is in the other room. I'm like, what? She's like, well, I don't really look at that computer. So I'm like, so the fact that you can't make the trip into the other room and load up the computer that apparently has the access is the reason why I'm the bad guy for not giving you the information that you've had at your fingertips the entire time. And she's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, I don't know if you hear yourself, but it's ridiculous. It's asinine. And I'm not having this conversation. So, and yeah, it's that stuff in education that I've never looked in the rearview mirror and said, oh, I missed that, because I don't. And it's gotten 1,000 times worse since I'm gone. I'm just watching what my wife goes through and everything. And I mean, they're going to have a whole, my wife's going back tomorrow for her conference day. And tomorrow's going to be all about parents. They have a whole day now dedicated to parents and dealing with that BS. That's no wonder people don't want to be teachers. So,
I mean, on the other hand, it's good parents are involved, right? I mean, it should be.
There should be an organic kind of relationship there, but it's now tipped to the point where, you know, do we trust teachers as professionals, or, you know, what are they?
Yeah.
So, you know, so I don't miss any of that, Eric. I don't. And when people ask me, you know, you do miss the classroom, I'm like, I miss the relationships I forged with my students. I miss the spark that I ignited in those kids when they learned something like made the universe made sense to them. And I don't miss anything else, because all the other crap was just, you know, manufactured BS that just got worse and worse over the years. So, yeah. And I feel, and Lori's now is like, oh, Dad, I think I might want to be a science teacher. And I'm just like, a little piece of me dies inside. Like, maybe, you know, there's other things you can do.
Maybe a science professor.
Yeah. Well, even my really good friend who I went to college with, who was my mentor, and people are always surprised, like, you had a mentor, like someone who had to help you. Yeah. He was my respect. He was the guy who got the things that I didn't get. And he became a professor. He's got his doctorate, and he became a professor of neurology. And I just saw him. I ran into him a couple of weeks ago. We went to the Mets game together because he's teaching in St. Louis. He got out of being a professor. He actually moved. He's like, I work in the lab full time now. He's like, I gave up my professorship. And I'm like, why? He's like, because I can't stand the parents. I'm like, you're a college professor. He's like, nope, it's just not the same. He's like, I had parents calling me as a professor. I'm like, what?
Those are adults.
Yeah, they're adults. Like, and he's like, I literally, I mean, I'm like, did you tell him, like, you know, you may be paying, but your child is the actual client. They're a client, you know. So, and they're adults, and this is, you know, they're, you know, so it's only getting worse. And I don't know how you fix that, but the current trajectory is not the right one. That's all I have to say. And I'll get off my soapbox on that.
Mm.
So I don't know how we went from hurricane safety to bashing the current state of public education. Well, my story, I think, was indicative of how that's gone. But yeah, it's
So go north
go north.
and leave your pool vents up, or don't. To you. And be safe.
I think my inclination would be, knowing what I know now, leave your pool fence up. The fence is replaceable. Your kids aren't.
Your homeowner's insurance will probably replace it.
Yeah.
There you go.
So there you go.
All right.
Problem solved.
Well, thank you, Rich.
And I feel like we did our science facts. So
Yeah, we did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Will we see you for Jeopardy?
you know what? I will be around today.
Oh my God.
I don't have anything on the docket.
Look at that.
I know I've said that before and not shown up, but I'm going to make every effort to join you guys today. Although if Mike could text me again and remind me,
We'll try to remind you.
that would be helpful. But I will. 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Are you guys? Is the streak still alive?
Streak's still alive.
Holy crap! What are you at now?
88.
Oh yeah, that's incredible.
It's pretty impressive, really. Honestly, it is.
Like, when does it get to a point where, like, the Jeopardy people reach out to you, like, wow, you guys are just off the charts good?
I've been wondering about that, honestly. Yeah.
Or it just tells you the whole futility of everything. Like, yeah, we really don't care.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? You get my trophy. You get the respect trophy.
It matters to us.
Well, there you go. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Yeah.
All right. So yes, I will try to join for Jeopardy today.
That'd be great.
Sounds good.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, viewers. Thank you for
Yes.
everything.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate you guys. Come see us next week, maybe.
Yeah. Could we potentially have a guest?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Might have guessed.
That would be nice.
I emailed them. We'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully they get back. That would be interesting.
That would be. All right.
All right. Sounds good. I will see you this afternoon then,
And see you all later. May the force be with you.
and also with you.